Hey guys, it's Jerry Travis back again with Jerry.Education, and today we're going to do the third video in the Intro to Excel series about basic formatting. Now there's so many different ways to format things in Excel. I'm clearly not going to be able to cover all of them in this one video, but I want to quickly just show you some things that you'll do all the time that are super handy and can take your spreadsheets from looking not so good to really professional, like you spent a lot of time putting it together. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is do what's called a merge and center. Now I'm going to click in the middle of this cell starting at A1, in the middle of it at So Sweet, and I'm going to drag over to lowest. Okay, so we've got this one selection made here in row 1, and if you look right up here in the alignment section, there is a merge and center button. Now if you hit the drop down, you can just merge across without centering, merge into one big cell, unmerge, and so on, but we're going to merge and center, and it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It turns this into one big cell, and it centers the contents of the first cell in that one big cell. Now that's really important. Okay, the contents have to be in the first cell. So if you try to merge and center with a cell with a bunch of stuff in it, where there's something in each cell, you're going to have trouble. It won't work. Okay, so that's a merge and center. And just so you know, you can unmerge by hitting the drop down and going to unmerge cells. Okay, so we'll just merge and center. Okay, now I want to make this title a little bigger, and you can do that one way by going up here to the font box, hit the drop down, and you could pick whatever font size you want. But if I'm just kind of eyeballing it and I know I just want to make it bigger, you can use this little increase font size and decrease font size to go back down. Or finally, if you wanted some really weird font size like 17.5, you can type it in on the keyboard and press enter. Okay, so whatever you want to do, there's no wrong way to do it. It just depends on how you want to do it. And I'm going to go right here and bold. Okay, and all of this is in the font group on the home ribbon. And these are called ribbons, by the way, and occasionally I'll refer to them as tabs. I mean the same thing, but officially these are ribbons. So there we go. We have successfully merged and centered this title. Now, if you watched the first video in this series, you'll note that I was really upset by the way that this date got formatted. Okay, and you can see that Excel changed it back, or not back, but changed it to 8/1/2016, and what I initially had typed in was August 16th, 2016. Well, Excel is smart and formatted this as a date style. Okay, now like I was telling you guys a long time ago, or in the first video, not like that was forever ago, but there's a bunch of ways to change the formats of stuff, and I'm going to hit this little flyout here in the number group on the home ribbon, and this flyout is called the dialog launcher. So from now on I'm going to call it a dialog launcher. Okay, and this is the most old school way I know of to change these things, but I'm going to go ahead and do it this way because you can see every possible option and it just makes it really convenient. So I'm going to hit this dialog launcher. It's going to pop up a box that says format cells like so. Right now it's in a custom format, which I may cover in a video at some point, but there are so many custom codes you can type in. But we're just going to go up to date. Okay, go up to date in the category. And you'll notice there's several categories, and we're going to see number and currency and all this jazz in a minute. But we're going to go to date for now. And if I just click down through here, there should be one that looks like I wanted it to look. And guess what? There's not. Okay, so we're going to be visiting that custom setting a little bit quicker than I had anticipated. Okay, so I'm going to hit this, okay, because this is the closest to what I want, right? And when you do that and jump down to custom, you'll see that it'll put in some codes for us already, and we just got to kind of figure out what we want to keep and what we don't. Okay, so I want to get rid of this day altogether, and this is something that I hadn't anticipated while doing this video, but this will just give you the power of the custom settings. Okay, so you remove that and we've got August, so clearly 4 M's in a row is the month spelled out. Then we've got the DD is for the date with a leading 0 if it has one. And we'll just back it on up, and apparently what we needed was 4 M's and 4 Y's. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I didn't know that. Okay? But what I did do was go up here to date, pick the one I thought would work, and then add that in. Or modify it from here, because it gives you some starter code. And you can go look up all of these to know what they do. Okay, but now when I click OK, it's exactly what I wanted. And it's still formatted as a date. And the cool thing is, it wouldn't matter what day I put in August 2016, it's still going to say August 2016. But generally, if you're just going to go with month and year, you do want to stick with the first day of that month. Okay, so now I'm going to merge and center this across, just because it's what all the cool kids do. Okay, and we'll make this a little bit bigger. I'll go ahead and bold it too, why not? Okay, so you've learned some pretty valuable skills. Okay, the merge and center thing, and notice I had to do those one row at a time. You cannot merge and center multiple rows at a time. So there's the merge and center, just by highlighting what you want to turn into one big cell. And also we applied a custom format to this date, and that was entirely accidental. I thought there was a pre-made one that would allow me to have month and year, but remember, I just went to my little number format, clicked on the dialog launcher, and that's how we were able to do that. Okay, so now let's focus on down here what we got going on. And I think I made a little adjustment before I started recording, so let me fix that back. And you should have something about like this where Maple Avenue's cut off, and that's because in Excel, if there's nothing in the adjacent cell and you overflow a cell, it will just show up. But as soon as you put something in the adjacent cell, Excel truncates or cuts off, it's called truncate, what is in the cell that's overflowing. The good news for us is we can make this fit. Okay, so there are a bunch of ways to do this, but I'm going to tell you about one way now, and that is go between your little A and B, and this is a double-headed arrow at the top here. I'm just going to click and drag out. Okay, so that's one way. Another way is if you double-click, it will make it fit perfectly. Now, if we would have used the double-click method before I merged and centered the So Sweet Lemonade cells, it would have widened this column out as wide as the So Sweet Lemonade cells was whenever it just occupied A1 before we merged and centered. So I use the double-click method most of the time, but be aware if you have headings or something on your sheet that occupy that same column, you may not get the desired effect. Okay, so it worked this time because we had already merged and centered, but just keep in mind that's why that'll happen that way sometimes if you double click and it jumps like that. But this is perfect, perfectly fits. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do what's called formatting this as a table. Okay, now some of you may say, wait a minute, you can add a total row when you do that and you've already got one. Well, we're just going to do it this way for now and leave it the way that we set it up in the original video. So I'm going to highlight my table data here. And right now it's not a table. It's just considered a range. And I'm going to go right up here to Format as Table. Format as Table. And not only is this going to apply a format, it's going to give us all kinds of options to sort our data and do some calculations on it, which we're probably not going to do in this video. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit this, and we are greeted with several formats. Okay, the light formats are just that, medium, you know, the colors are a little richer, and then you go down to the dark colors and it's just, you know, really dark stuff. So since this is a lemonade stand business, I'm going to go with this one. Notice that on this particular theme, this formatting theme, it's got a header row up here because our labels for our columns in this data are going to be in this dark spot. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it, and you'll see that it says my table has headers, and that's really important. The headers are simply the label in the first row of the table. Okay, and sometimes you may have data that doesn't have a header up here, but this is like the location column, week 1 column, and so on. So I'm going to leave that checked, and we're going to click OK. Okay, so now you'll see that it not only did it format it, and by the way, once you do that, you can just mouse over to see what these other formats would look like. Okay, without even having to click, but I like this one, that's why I picked it. But you'll notice we ended up with these drop downs. Okay, and we're not going to do anything with these drop downs. These are called filter buttons. So you can see real quick that you can do sorting, you can uncheck boxes right here to hide the rows that this stuff would be in, that type of thing. You can do it for each one of the headers here. Those are called filter buttons. Now, this is something we haven't seen in Excel yet, but when you format something as a table and you're clicked inside of a table, there's a special ribbon that only shows up whenever you're clicked on a table, and it's under, in this case, Table Tools and the Design tab. Sometimes you'll have a special ribbon that has several different tabs that are special, and they'll be grouped by, in this case, this yellow Table Tools. Okay? So that only shows up when I'm on the table. As soon as I click off of the table, it's not even a possibility anymore. So that's pretty smart on Microsoft's part. So I'm going to click in this table, and I'm going to uncheck the filter button because we're not going to be using it. Okay? So as far as we're concerned, everything is as it was. Okay? And don't worry about this total row here. We've already got our own total row in. But there is a way to have Excel automatically do a total row without having to manually calculate it like we did in the first video. Okay, but don't worry about that. And so I'm going to, first things first, if you remember, I was very upset that the header text was aligned to the left on my weekly totals and my total, highest, average, and lowest. Okay, and that's because numbers by default align to the right. The reason that happens is your decimal places will not line up unless you align numbers to the right. And text in a cell by default aligns to the left, and that's why these labels for the locations and location is already lined up. So what I'm going to do is highlight week 1 through lowest, and remember these are ranges, and I could say B3 to I3, okay, but these are ranges, and I'm going to go back to home because you don't have to stay in this Table Tools design just because you're clicking the table. And right here there's an alignment set of alignment buttons in the alignment group, and I'm going to align these labels to the right so that they match the numbers and everything's aligned to the right. So that's made me feel a lot better. You have no idea how much better that makes me feel. Just so we can set off these totals here, and the average, highest, and lowest, I'm going to highlight this stuff. So from F4 to I7, okay, that's my range. I'm going to go ahead and go to this little bucket, this little paint bucket in the font group, and that's going to change the background color of the cell. And you wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but I thought it kind of set off that stuff was different than the weekly totals because we use formulas to calculate it. So you can go here and pick one of these colors, and I'm going to stay in these gold accents because the theme I've got is in the yellows. I'm going a little overboard with this lemonade thing, but hey, you know, I think it looks different and really makes it look lemonade-y, if that's a word. So now we've highlighted those so that everybody knows, hey, wait a minute, yeah, this is a special little section. And just for giggles, I'm going to go right here and we'll apply the same. And the cool thing is once you pick a color, the last color you use stays on the bucket. So now I can click like that, just on the bucket itself without having to pick the color. Okay, and this isn't the prettiest spreadsheet I've ever made, but as long as you know how to change these things, I'm happy. Okay, and now I'm going to take this total row and we're going to bold the thing. Okay, and we'll go ahead and bold the first column as well. Alright, so we did a lot of work on this particular sheet, and I just noticed something. The total of the average really doesn't matter. It's not a thing, so I'm just going to press delete on the keyboard and that will clear out these three cells. We didn't need these. Okay, and that's nothing really wrong with that. That's just kind of how it is. And because there's nothing in these cells, I'll go ahead and hit the drop down, go to no fill. Okay, and that's how you can empty out a background color once you apply it. So it's not the greatest thing ever, but we will run with it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of stuff with formatting this as a table. Now, real quick, like, we're going to change up these charts just a little bit, and there's other things we could do, but I'm trying to make these somewhat short so that you can watch them during class, or you don't have to sit there all day to see how to do this stuff. But we're going to go ahead and change the theme on this chart. So I'm going to click on the line chart first. Again, we've got a special ribbon here for chart tools. This one has design and format. Looks like I need to go to design. And there's nothing wrong with this chart style. I like it. But I'm going to go to change colors, and we're going to pick this one right here, because we're sticking with the lemonade thing. Even though it may not be the prettiest, that's how we're going to roll. Okay, so there we go. We've turned this into kind of a lemonade color scheme. Now, honestly, these monochromatic schemes in a lot of ways are not the best. Okay, but we're going to make it work. Just so everything matches. So now I'm going to click on the bar chart, and it's actually going to be a little easier to read in the monochromatic scheme. I wish I would have went with limeade, because the green colors are so much prettier than the yellow colors. But hey, you live, you learn, I guess, right? Okay, so now we've formatted the charts here to be in this same yellow color scheme. So we've basically covered a lot of formatting aspects. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And I will have other videos coming your way soon. We're going to get into formulas a little more, because right now the formulas that we're showing are pretty basic. That'll be the next video in the series, is some more stuff with formulas, a little bit more advanced, a little bit more discussion. Please subscribe, and that way whenever I post another video, it will give you a notification in your email. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.